Hi, this is Sandy from Spitfire's Customer Experience team, and this is the third video in our series looking at the instruments included in Sounddust Vol.2. In this video, we're going to be looking at Infundibulum, which is a really interesting instrument with a very powerful arpeggiator. So when you first load up the Infundibulum, you're presented with this page. There are two other tabs, one of which is the RTFM tab, which just really tells you what all of the different sounds are in the browser. And there's also an ARP recorder, which allows you to record the output from your arpeggiator here as MIDI, which you can then drag and drop into your DAW. But we're going to focus on the Infundibulum page, because this is really where most of the controls are. If you've used any of the Sounddust Volume 1 instruments, you'll probably be familiar with the sound browser and the controls on the left-hand side here. We have a browser at the top where we can choose the sound that we'd like. We have buttons to disable and enable the sounds. We also have an octave control here, which is set to 0 for our first sound, -12 and +12 here. You can click and drag on that to change whether you want the sound to be 1 octave down, neutral, or 1 octave up. Let's hear what some of these sounds are like. The default is called D-tone, and this is what that sounds like. We also have things like Rhodes and clavinets. These two controls underneath affect our loop points in the samples. We then have a volume control and a sample start position, which we can click and drag on to affect the timbre of the sound. We also have a pan control underneath, which we can click and drag left and right, as well as what we call pan wobble. We can increase the depth of it by clicking on the word pan and dragging up and down, and we can also increase the speed by clicking and dragging on that. Clicking where it says off here will switch on our distortion, and this little radioactive symbol will bring us over to our distortion controls such as drive and damp, as well as some bit reduction and sampling effects, and downsampling effects. Clicking on that symbol again will bring us back to the default view. We have an ADSR represented by these 4 different bars, and this little symbol to the left allows us to change the curve from exponential to logarithmic. Underneath our ADSR, we also have a low and high pass filter, and then we have pitch, vibrato, and chorus. Clicking on the words vibrato or chorus and dragging allows us to increase the depth. Clicking where we have a multiplier allows us to change the speed. Underneath the word chorus here, if you click and drag, you can increase the reverb send. You can also select the IR that you'd like from a list. And then we also have a delay send at the bottom here. You can click and drag on that. So there's 3 different sounds which you can layer up and blend between and affect with these different controls. But where Infundibulum gets really interesting is when you start using the sequencers or arpeggiators on the right hand side here. You can see that these are color-coded and match the different sounds in our browser on the left. At the moment these are all switched off. I'll switch this on and put it into gate mode for now. You can select the speed at which you'd like the sequencer to run. I'll leave that on 16th. We also have some different options for the shaper here. You can also just click and move these faders around to change the velocity. You can change the number of steps by clicking and dragging, and you can also adjust swing and offset and decay for those steps. I've put in some random values here. Let's hear how that sounds now. Let's try some of the different settings. This is gate. Let's hear what chord sounds like. Or one of the arpeggiator settings. You can hear there's a whole host of different options there. Of course, things get very interesting when you introduce a couple of other sounds and set your arpeggiators to different values. You can, of course, do cross rhythms too. Let's hear what this sounds like. can hear how quickly this can become really interesting and varied. And of course, this is just one example. I'd really recommend you check out Pendle's video for this on his own Sounddust website, because he really goes in depth on this. Finally, along the bottom, we have some insert effects, such as dirt, EQ, rotor, reverb, and then we have our controls for our sends here. You can switch these on and off by clicking on the text, and click and drag on the controls to change their values. That's it for our video on Infundibulum. If you've got any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us at spitfireaudio.com/support. And join me in the next video where we'll be taking a look at Odd Hop